In this video, I'll discuss some of the features of Logger Pro, which is the software used in gas switching. First, when you open up a setup file, you will be presented with a sensor confirmation window. Here you connect the sensors to the various channels of the interfaces. So just connect, making sure that the sensor is going into the right channel as indicated by this text box on the page. So just connect all four or whatever number of sensors there are. When you've done that, you can actually see the sensors on the interfaces. The interfaces are LabQuest Minis. There are two of them in this experiment. The Mini has 3 analog input channels and 2 digital output channels. You can actually see the sensors that are connected to the various channels. You can choose different sensors if so needed. Qubit has a separate list. These sensors also appear as pictograms on the left. So these 3 analog channels accept the 0 to 5 volts signals from the sensors. The digital control unit is connected to one of the digital output channels. We can actually see and program it. First of all, it's possible to test that the DCU is working by simply turning on a line, and you can see the LED turn on for that channel in the DCU. Or you can program the 3 outputs from the DCU. For example, you can activate line 1 if a variable. You can choose whatever variable you wish is equal to or greater or equal to or less than some limit that you put in, or a user parameter. In addition, you can have a second line of command under control of the Boolean functions and, until, or. A second variable exceeds a limit or a user parameter. So this DCU can be used to turn on and off pumps, solenoids, alarms if they exceed a certain limit, so forth. Now I'd like to just briefly discuss some of the commands in the Logger Pro. File has the usual Windows type commands of saving, printing. I'd like you to note that Logger Pro can import and export data to other worksheets such as Excel. You can print graphs or tables. A couple of settings here worth looking at. You can choose the number of points for smoothing calculations or derivative calculations. And finally, in the File menu, there is a capability of data sharing. Logger Pro can broadcast to iPhones and iPads, although we won't do this in gas switching. The Edit command has the usual cut, copy, paste, and has a couple of very useful functions for dealing with outlier data. You can select an outlier simply by holding down the left button and sweeping across the outlier. Strike through the data cells. They disappear, but they're not lost forever. You can restore them. The experiment command is used mainly for storing and clearing and displaying runs, connecting interfaces, setting up sensors. But mostly it is used for calibration of a sensor. For example, if we want to calibrate, recalibrate, the CO2 sensor. You can tell it where to store the calibration. Usually it's stored in the experiment file, so it's available the next time you use that experiment file. You can actually see this equation, the slope and offset, or you can go ahead and recalibrate by using two calibration gases, a 0 usually and a span. You just need 2 since it's a linear sensor. The data command used for hiding and showing data sets, but more importantly, you can insert new manual columns in a table, and then you can input data by hand, or if you wish to customize and analyze in a different way, you can insert new calculations. Give it a name, choose a function. Logger Pro has quite an extensive library of functions, some Boolean, calculus, digital filtering of the input signals, interpolation, smoothing, statistics, summing, trigonometric, and an alignment or a shift function. The functions operate on the variables, the raw data or calculations. For example, if we want to, let's say, take the log of CO2, you can do that. And you can also include in, let's say you want to add in a user parameter, for example. Then when you complete done, you will have a new column with that equation in it. And note that all these equations, there are many in this setup file, are calculated at each sample time, as each sensor is sampled. Also, you can see the user parameters that are set up, and you can add new ones, put the increment on so that you know how much you're increasing it by when you toggle it, give it units. The analyze function is very useful. You can put on a cursor to look at data point by point. You can do tangents, interpolations. Some of these analyze functions are shown as hotkeys in the menu. You can do integrals, which do not subtract a background, or peak integration, which does subtract a background, statistics, linear fit or curve fits. Choose the parameter, the variable that you wish to curve fit. You can do linear fits or polynomials up to 5th order, standard exponentials and logs, or even build your own fitting function. Okay. Insert, you can insert graphs, simply insert a graph, double click on it, give it titles. You can have 2 axes. You choose the variables you want to plot. You can change the scale, choose the x-axis from the list of variables, and you can even change the type of graph you have, either auto scaling or manual, or even a strip chart, which is a sliding window. You can insert tables. This is very useful if you wish to customize a table, for example, for summary. You can click on the table and choose what variables you want to show, what data you want to show in that table. You can insert meters as shown down here. You can insert text annotations if you want to write yourself a note during the experiment, pictures, movies, and you can insert new parameter control. For example, you can insert a parameter and, as discussed in an earlier video, change it either with the toggles or by double clicking on it and changing the value within the parameter control window. Okay. These are the options that you can use if you click on a graph or table, meter, so forth. This is a very useful function in that if a page gets too cluttered with too many graphs and tables, meters and text boxes, you can go to a new page. So you just add a new page, give it a name if you wish, and now you can insert new graphs, tables, meters, and so forth. And the pages will be listed here. Finally, Logger Pro has a very extensive help, which is useful for looking up the definitions of various commands. So I hope that this overall discussion gives you more confidence in going in and customizing the Logger Pro data for your own needs in terms of graphs, tables, and so forth, and calculations.